Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. I'm your host, Quianna, Canada, and today we have a lot to talk about. Before we get into today's topic, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Remember that your likes, your shares, and all the subscribers to this channel, they really do mean a lot to me. Not only do they mean a lot to me, but what it does is it pushes videos like this up in the algorithm. It tells the algorithm that these videos are important. But we must be reminded that just because videos like this are not pushed up in the algorithm does not mean these videos are not important, right? They are important. So I'm in a new, as an announcement, I'm in a new room, actually recording this video in the library instead of the graduate school. Just a moment. Okay, yeah. Recording this video in the graduate school instead of the library. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm recording this video in the library instead of the graduate school. So the reason why I'm doing that is because for some odd reason, the HD cameras, these are portable cameras that are often in the graduate school. There are none available. I don't know if they decided to just lock them up or if they are missing. But usually, when I record my videos in the graduate school. Uh, but to reiterate, I noticed that most of the HD cameras were missing. So I don't know if someone took those cameras or if the staff just decided to uh, put them away in the evening because I'm not seeing any of those cameras available. And the cameras that are available are actually in the teaching rooms, and the teaching rooms are just really not appropriate to do these videos. And so I am in the library, and the quality of the video may be lowered because, of course, I'm not recording with those HD cameras. So I sincerely apologize for that. Like, I was looking everywhere. Like, right now, it's pretty late. I think I spent an hour trying to look for those cameras and really couldn't find an area to record. And so I'm here in the library. It's the best that I can do to bring these videos to you. And so I really apologize that the quality may be lessened. Now that we got that out of the way for our second announcement, as you know, I am a human rights defender. My activism usually revolves around Black American issues. Howsoever, it's not limited to Black American issues. There are areas where I do speak out when I see that there is um, where I see that there is a pattern and a practice, and one of those areas is where it comes to children's rights because I'm an advocate for the children. And so if I see that there is a pattern and a practice, I will speak out on those issues. But to reiterate, you know that I am an American citizen and I am an activist. And currently, I am going through transnational repression. That's transnational repression. It's a form of political repression where countries are reaching across their borders to silence the dissent of their citizens. And the best way that I can explain what transnational repression is, it's a form of coercive control. And so basically, the state, so for example, your state or the state or the entity that is seeking to silence your speech has control over your actions and who you communicate with, and so basically it's a very influential leader at the top who is often very toxic but very influential and charismatic, and that person is able to get people to buy in into this idea of oppressing you. And so as an American citizen who is going through transnational repression. I just need to bring awareness to this every day that political repression is real, that states are engaging in it. The two states that I believe is putting me through transnational repression is the Republic of Ireland and also, of course, my own country, the United States of America. And I think that the United States of America is doing it through its legal attaches because, as we know, I've been going through transnational repression ever since I uh, landed in the Republic of Ireland and haven't gone through anything like it before. And so what this is letting me know that this is definitely the Republic of Ireland that has uh, initiated or instigated this practice against me. I certainly feel that it has to do with my country, the United States, but through its legal attaches, because as we know right now, the power has shifted. So the Biden administration is no longer in office and the Trump administration is in office now. So these two, administrations, I can't see that the Biden administration would have a deep conversation with Trump to tell Trump, "Hey, you should oppress this citizen who is abroad and speaking out." No, I think it is the legal attaches that have a lot of power abroad, and they're able to influence the countries in which they are situated in, and they are able to control their citizens. And so it's a form of like to reiterate, it's a form of coercive control. I would almost say it's a form of modern day slavery, how these legal attaches, how these intelligence agencies are actually attaching themselves parasitically to a human rights defender that is speaking out against human rights violations and trying to make their life unbearable every single day. So I just needed to bring awareness to that issue. And I'm sorry that it's been so long speaking about that, but it just needed to be said. Now that I've got that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about a very disturbing story that I have been following for the last few weeks, or maybe the last couple of weeks, probably going on 3 weeks or so. There is a woman who has a Facebook account, and she does have a YouTube account, and she doesn't have a lot of followers, uh, but she has been speaking out about her son not being found. Her son is missing. Her son's been missing since January the 2nd. And so when I discuss this circumstance or this controversy, when I discuss this controversy, this my discussion is coming from the lens of or I'm speaking about this controversy from the vantage point of the mother and no other vantage point. And so let's go ahead and get into those details. I think how this story started was on the 1st of January. Charlotte Croom's son, his name is Travelle Martin, got into an altercation with his girlfriend. Now, what I come to understand about this relationship is that these were two people that were actually in love with each other. Had these two people were had a close relationship, and I think that if anything, this case is really about disagreements in relationships or possibly like domestic, an alleged account of domestic violence. But there's more to this story. And so we're going to get into that. And so on January the 1st, what happened was Travell and his girlfriend, and I forget her name, but Travell, what is her name? Just a moment. I think it's Esmeralda or it's something of that sort. But Travell and his girlfriend got into an altercation. And I come to understand that maybe this altercation had to do with infidelity because from the stories and the reports coming from the family is that what is being reported is that Travell and his girlfriend were in an argument. And as they were in an argument, Travelle allegedly had the phone of the girlfriend. And so perhaps he was going through the phone, maybe he was trying to see if there was something in the phone, but that's a detail that is public, that Travelle had I believe, an iPhone that belonged to his girlfriend. And so what the reports are stating is that there was like an altercation with Travell and his girlfriend, and allegedly that she was trying to leave the house, and Travell was following after her and grabbed her. And so I think that when the police arrived, Travell Martin, this is what the accounts state, that Travell, I think he left in through the back door. I think he was possibly afraid and he left, and uh, he ran, he took off someplace, and he is nowhere to be found. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my bringing you this story is not uh, condoning any act of domestic violence. And so I'm not there to see exactly what happened between these two people. And before I get into the second part of this story, I want to, to firmly say that my heart is always going to be with the vulnerable people. And so the person that's most vulnerable in this story right now is Charlotte Croom, the mother. I've been watching several of her videos, and there is a vulnerability there. And before I get into that, I want to say that I don't have any video, or excuse me, the Cumru Township has not released any video of this altercation. They haven't released any body cam worn footage of them chasing after Travelle Martin. That is not to say that this body worn camera footage does not exist and has not or is not within the custody of this police department. If it exists, it just has not been released yet. And if they have footage, I would urge them to release it, because what it does is it actually brings clarity to this story. I think it's what it does is it takes one layer off of the table, one layer of questioning off the table, especially for the mother, because the mother does not have any answers at this point. And so the police department has their allegations. And as usual, those allegations are framing the narrative that, you know, that Travell is A, B, or C. And the family has their own narrative. And so as I watch these videos, ladies and gentlemen, I feel deeply saddened that Charlotte Croom is going through this difficult time. Now, I'm not a mother, I don't have any children, but I can only imagine what it's like to wake up one day, find out that your child is missing, and do everything that you can to try and get clarity about what happened to your child and not get any answers. And so, from the standpoint of a person who could possibly miss someone that they care about deeply, in this case, a mother who is missing their child, we have to look at it from her perspective. And from her perspective, she didn't do anything wrong. This mother did not do anything wrong. She doesn't have all the answers before her, and that is something that she needs. And as a, a woman whose child is missing, she deserves answers. And so I'm deeply disappointed that in this particular case that the police department hasn't put out a search for Travelle Martin. And I think it was highly inappropriate for the police department to actually frame the narrative in a way that makes it appear as if this person is armed and dangerous and etc. I think that that was highly inappropriate to do. Ladies and gentlemen, people get into conflicts all the time in their relationships, and that does not mean that it's okay. And you and I, and definitely Charlotte Croom, we don't have the facts in front of us. We weren't there that day. And so it's highly inappropriate for the police department, who also was not there at the start of this incident, to take the approach that it's taking. Now, there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation that is online that I'm not repeating because, again, I can't confirm the authenticity of those accounts. All I can do is follow the story of Charlotte Croom. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe her. And I'm going to tell you why. This was a woman who who loves and still does love her son deeply. Now I've seen a couple of videos with Charlotte Croom and her son, and I can tell that they had a close relationship. Now, to reiterate, all families have their disagreements. This is part of just being human. Humans are not always going to agree. And I think what's most disconcerting about this case, like other cases, is that what we are doing, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are not giving people the chance to learn from their mistakes and to grow. Now, in this particular case, when Travelle left out the back door, from what I understand from the mother's account, is that he didn't have any shoes on and he didn't have a coat or anything on. So it was pretty cold in Cumru Township at that on that day, on January the 1st. And Charlotte is going through really a difficult time right now. Like every day, what she is doing is she is posting a video to speak out about her situation, to speak out about this circumstance, this dilemma that she finds herself in. And it's unfortunate that the authorities haven't been helpful. For example, they haven't been helpful in a number of ways. First, they haven't met with Charlotte and had a sit down conversation with her to actually discuss the details about what they know. That's one. Two, they haven't launched an official investigation. Three, they have not searched for Travelle Martin. And if you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, is that following policy and procedure? Is that following policy and procedure? I am of the opinion that the mother deserves answers. Again, she didn't have anything to do with this. She didn't have anything to do with this situation, and she shouldn't be punished because of facts that are not before her. Now, I believe Charlotte, and I want to tell you something that, just a moment. Okay, so this is what I captured that was on the Facebook account, and I think that the family actually wrote this, and let's see if I can show you this. And so it says, we know, let's see. Okay, it says active open investigation, though evidence was returned. And so they're saying a date. They said with the phone being returned. So there is an allegation that Travelle has a robbery charge. And so that robbery charge, ladies and gentlemen, to be transparent, what they're talking about is the phone, the iPhone. So remember, Travelle and his girlfriend, they got into an altercation. Possibly there was, assuming one can only infer that when a man possibly takes the phone of a woman and he's looking through it, he believes that she is possibly cheating, whether or not those allegations are true or not, right? And so what possibly happened was Travelle inspected her phone, had his girlfriend's phone on him, and when he fled the house, they actually so excuse me, when he fled the house, they are charging their when he fled the house with her phone, they are saying that that is robbery. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see how trumped up that charge is? At best, that charge is possibly a theft charge, right? But it's not theft because it's not even that when you think about it. Because this is how I imagine what happened in the home. There was an allegation of cheating. The two lovebirds got into an altercation with each other. And I'm pretty sure that this was a custom of both of them to check each other's phone to see what is in each other's phone. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been in relationships before and I have had these policies with my ex-boyfriends and trust me, in my past relationships, but my boyfriends have demanded to see my phone. I've demanded to see their phones. Like this is something that is normal. And so what happened possibly is that he held on to her phone, kept her phone, probably wouldn't release it, and they got into an argument about that. And I'm not sure if he intended to flee the home with her phone on his person. It possibly when the police arrived, that scared him. He was probably scared of being unalived in that moment and left with the phone. But I don't think like he intentionally said, okay, this is like, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about robbery, robbery is where you think about all the cases where robbery happens. Robbery is where you are taking something from somebody who is a stranger. So you're walking into a convenience store and you're holding them up with some sort of weapon and you are demanding that they give you their property. You're holding them up in some way, right? And when we think about robbery on the street, the same thing occurs. There is an assailant who and let's look at and see what constitutes robbery. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can share my screen. Okay, so robbery is the crime of taking or attempting to take anything of value by force, by threat of force, or by use of fear. According to common law, robbery is defined as the taking the property of another with the intent to permanently deprive the person of that property by means of force or fear, that is, uh, it is a larceny or a theft accomplished by assault. Okay, so what the word that I'm looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is the word permanently deprive the person of their property. I'm looking at that to permanently deprive a person of their property. Ladies and gentlemen, and this is what I mean, is that when we're talking about robbery, right, it is often where a person approaches a stranger, whether in a convenience store or whether, sometimes these smash and grabs or on the street, and they intend to take something of value that belongs to a person and to keep it. And ladies and gentlemen, if these two were in a relationship, I don't think that Travelle intended to take this phone and to keep it and never give it back to his girlfriend. I don't that doesn't make sense because when we think about it, let's think about it objectively. Let's pretend that the police never arrived to the scene of the crime or to the scene of the incident or to the scene of whatever you want to call it. Let's assume that the police never arrived. The police never arrived and Travelle and his girlfriend make up. What would have likely happened in all relationships is Travelle would have likely given his and most likely given that phone back to his girlfriend. They would have made up and he would have, the relationship would have continued. And so that's why I think that it was highly inappropriate for the police department to frame this particular issue as, or this particular circumstance or incident as a robbery. How do they know that it was a robbery? Did he intend to take it and never give it back to her? Okay, let's look at those examples that I provided again. When a person goes into a convenience store and they stick it up, right? And they ask for cash, they don't intend to just take the cash and then decide to bring it back. When a person robs a person on the street corner, they don't intend to take that person's pearl necklace or that person's purse and then later bring it back to them, because there's no relationship there. So the robber doesn't have a relationship with the person in the convenience store. The robber doesn't have a relationship with the stranger on the street. They don't have a relationship or a connection with these people. Let's look at the smash and grabs. Let's review that. When a person goes into a jewelry store or these handbag stores that we always see on the news, right? We see these smash and grabs on the news. People go in with these masks on and they go in and I guess what do they do? They break these glass containers and take bags and take jewelry. They don't intend to take that and sell those items, that merchandise, and then bring the profits back to the department store. So you can't hold Travelle under the same standard. To assume that he took this property from his girlfriend, assuming that making the assumption that he never intended to return it is fallacious. Because one, you have to assume that the relationship was never going to work out. One, you would have to assume that this relationship is not going to work out. And if this relationship does not work out, excuse me, you're under the assumption that Travelle Martin feels that this relationship is not going to work out, and that Trayvon Martin is taking this phone and that he is not going to ever bring it back to his girlfriend because the relationship is not going to work out, and you're under the assumption that he doesn't want to see his girlfriend anymore. And how do you know that? You can't know that because he's not here to tell us. And he definitely didn't tell his girlfriend, I'm taking your phone and I'm never going to return it back to you. And I don't ever want to see you again. And I'm taking this phone and you're never ever going to give it back. Where is the evidence of that? Where is the evidence that Travelle Martin feels that he intended to keep the phone, never to return it? To reiterate, these were two people that were in a relationship and they got into an altercation. Some are calling it domestic violence. Whether or not that's true, I don't know because I am not there uh, to make an informed decision on that. I'm not seeing the evidence, and again, my heart is always to reiterate. My heart is always going to be with women. It's always going to be with victims of violence. But in saying that, I don't see anything before me that is indicative that that is s that is saying that this it would that is I don't see anything before me that is consistent with what the story the police department is putting out. This is what I think, ladies and gentlemen, and to reiterate, this has nothing to do with the female that is in this case. This has nothing to do with Travelle Martin's girlfriend. This has to do let's put this where it belongs. This has to do with the framing of the police department. The police department knew if they framed this case the way they framed it, that we would likely never get clarity on this particular case. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a practice that is happening in the United States where the United States is throwing these allegations that are on marginalized communities, specifically Black Americans, that prevents them from getting the justice that they deserve, prevents them from getting the help that they deserve. And so the police department knew if they attached trumped up charges on Travelle Martin the way in which they did, that there would be a high likelihood that no one would come out and support him. And do we see marches in the streets asking what is happening to Trayvell Martin? Why hasn't there been any justice? We haven't seen that, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the problem. This is the problem that I have because you have a mom, Charlotte Croom, who is the victim in this particular case, ladies and gentlemen. She is the victim and she deserves answers. Just a moment. I'm going to just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't think that the mother. So, what I think, ladies and gentlemen, is that This may constitute a enforced disappearance. Now, the United States of America is not not a signatory of the Enforced Disappearance Convention. So that's the Convention for the Protection of all persons from enforced disappearance. The United States is not a party to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, when incidents like this happen, it's time to call on the United States to ratify these conventions. And just a moment. Just a moment. Okay. Sorry, I was looking for something. Let's see if I can share my screen with you. Uh, Window here. Okay, so if you can see, this says relatives of victims of enforced disappearance and or extrajudicial execution have the right to have the facts effectively investigated. The right to an investigation is closely related to the right to truth. The right to an investigation includes the right of access to information relevant to the investigation, the right to present evidence and require expert opinions and forensic examination, as well as the right to be informed of the progress, evolution, and results of the investigation. Now, the United States is not a party to the Inter American Court of Human Rights, but of course, this is within uh, the Americas. So I'll read this. The Inter American Court of Human Rights has stated that the victims or the relatives must have full access to and capacity to all acts at all stages and levels of the investigation to formulate their claims and to prevent evidence with regards to both clarifying the facts and punishment of those responsible and with regarding ensuring fair reparation. The results of the investigations should be public. However, the publication of some aspects of an investigation, such as the identity of witnesses or sources of information, could compromise the prosecution of punishment of perpetrators or violations, therefore, da 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 da. And so you can see, ladies and gentlemen, what's important here is that Charlotte has been excluded from these stages of an investigation, and she is supposed to be included. And despite the fact that the United States is not a party to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights or not a party to the convention, there is still a positive obligation on the United States of America to include family members in investigations when their loved one is missing. Let's continue. Indeed, the relatives of the victim should be closely associated with an investigation into a case of enforced disappearance. The refusal to provide information is a limitation on the right to truth. Thus, in all cases and circumstances, the relatives of victims of enforced disappearance or extrajudicial executions, da 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 da, have the right to be informed about the progress and results of the investigation into the fate and whereabouts of their loved ones. The families of the victims and their legal representatives have the right to request and submit and challenge evidence. The families of the victims and their legal representatives shall be informed of the results of the investigation, the decision, and whether or not to prosecute the alleged perpetrators, etc. Now, you may say, well, Quianna, there's no evidence that Travelle Martin was in, that he is subject to an enforced disappearance, that he could just be missing, right? But ladies and gentlemen, when the state chased after Travelle Martin, it's hard for me to come to the conclusion that they don't know what happened to him and that he can't be found, that they can't find him. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to wake up. States have the capacity to surveil a person 24 hours, 7 days a week. Trust me, I know, like I am a victim of transnational repression where states have attached intelligence agencies who keep an eye on you all the time. And so it's hard for me to believe that the state doesn't have the capacity to find Travelle when they have a lot of money. They're putting a lot of money into looking into people that are really looking into issues that are benign. Now, I will say that to reiterate, this is coming from the lens of Charlotte Croom. She's a mother and she didn't do anything wrong. She learned one day that her son was missing. And after she learned that, what she did was she made contact with police department. And she's been in communication, trying to be in communication with them, and they are treating her as if she does not exist. They're treating her as if she's invisible. And think about how that can make one feel. To discover one day, wake up and discover that your loved one is missing and that you don't know all the facts behind the situation because your loved one is not there to tell you. And all you can do is speculate, all you can do is wonder, all you can do is just guess and try and put the pieces of the puzzle together yourself. And still that is not enough. And so what you do is you are relying on the government. You're relying on those in power to see the humanity in this particular situation. You're relying on them. You're relying on them to tell you what happened. You're relying on them to find your loved one, someone that you care about, somebody that you loved all your life is no longer here and you want to know why. And to reiterate, to be treated as invisible, to be treated as a person who an inconnu, a person who doesn't that they're perceiving as a person who doesn't deserve answers. I'm pretty sure that's not the policy. Regardless of what happened between Travelle and his girlfriend, the mother should not be punished. She deserves answers. Now, I've wa to reiterate, I've watched multiple videos of Charlotte's, and she is this is really taking a toll on her. Now, I've looked at her Instagram accounts, or excuse me, her TikTok accounts and some of her Facebook accounts, and she is a woman who often dresses up, fixes herself up, wears makeup. And ladies and gentlemen, she hasn't been doing that lately because all she can think about is her son missing over a domestic dispute that we all have some point in time in our life. I raise your hand if you've never had a dispute with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife or your significant other. I don't know any person that has never had a domestic dispute. And I feel disgusted that the state is adopting this morality policing. I'm seeing this across states, ladies and gentlemen. I'm seeing this in Europe. I'm seeing this here in the United States. Seeing it in the United States. I'm seeing it here in Europe where I am, where states are starting to attach morality to everyday situations. We consider the facts. Let's go back to the case at bar. Even if we are to assume that this was a domestic dispute and we are to assume that, well, the girlfriend, has a legitimate claim. Even if we are to assume that, ladies and gentlemen, that does not mean that Travelle deserved to have his life, uh, if that is what has happened, God forbid. But that doesn't mean that Travell deserves to be in a place where his mom can't reach him. And so I will hold on to say hold on to like Charlotte Croom is holding on. I will believe that like he possibly can be found. And if that is the case, then it's important to understand where he is now. And if someone is holding him, that is an enforced disappearance, and that is a violation of international human rights law. Ladies and gentlemen, if that is not the case, the mother deserves answers, and there should be the force on this case trying to locate him regardless of what happened. Because if they arrest him, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be a incident where he does years in jail. I seriously doubt that he would do that, right? Because this is a domestic dispute, and I'm not trivializing domestic disputes because domestic abuse does happen and it is horrific. And I'm not saying that it should happen. To reiterate, I'm looking at this case from the lens of the mother, and I think that she deserves answers. She didn't do anything wrong, and she's hurting right now. And I can't understand why feminist groups or woman uh, m- groups that are, I'm pretty sure probably mother groups or let's see what's there. Well, feminist groups probably won't help, but let's see. What's there? So it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, that there is a NAACP. It's not in Cumru, but it is in Wyomissing. Let's see. So it looks like that there is an NAACP that is about 14 minutes away from Cumru Township. And I'm not certain as to why they haven't spoken out or said anything. Like it's and ladies and gentlemen, this is the problem. This is the problem that I have in the United States. Again, I don't let me be clear because people will take what I'm saying out of context. Let me be clear. I don't condone acts of violence. I don't condone any crime. But ladies and gentlemen, can we be real for a moment? Let's be real. Let's sit down and let's be real. Let's don't fake. When an individual in the dominant society, when they're accused of a crime, there is millions of dollars poured into their legal defense all the time. Yet when a Black American, when they are accused of a crime, they are suffering and don't have a legal defense, don't have any organization speaking out for them. The only time organizations speak out for them is if the situation somehow goes viral, and that is not the way that civil justice or human rights justice should be. You don't speak out because there is a crowd. You don't speak out because everybody is speaking out about that particular situation. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't do that. That is not the barometer to use. So we're not saying, okay, well, because everyone is speaking out, then this must be a legitimate situation. Ladies and gentlemen, there are people that are suffering every day without any legal representation. There are people who are victimized every day without any redress or without any avenues to redress. And yet the standard that we have set is that, okay, well, in order for our leaders to represent an issue, a ton of people in the public must speak out about it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not how it is supposed to happen. In matters of public opinion, that's one thing, right? But we know that there are going to be people who don't have a lot of support. And where's their justice? Like, I don't get it. Let's take, for example, Luigi Mangione. He is accused of allegedly unaliving a United Healthcare worker, CEO, Brian Thompson. And the state is alleging that he is the individual in the footage that we see. The state is alleging that he is the individual in the footage that we see in the hostel. And the state is alleging that he is the individual that we see in the McDonald's, I believe. And ladies and gentlemen, if those allegations are true, Luigi Mangione took a life. Now, I uh, know that the healthcare system in the United States needs a lot of work. I'm very cognizant of that. But I'm speaking about this because what happened was that millions of dollars was funneled into Mangione's legal defense, despite Mangione being a very wealthy person himself. And ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't his family that was funneling this money into his legal defense. This was activist groups. And I am really disappointed that we don't see that in for Black Americans. We don't see that. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, can we speak truth to power? Can we speak truth to power? Right now, there is, let's speak truth to power. I'll talk about that in another video. I'll talk about that situation in another video. Let me just stay on topic. There was an attorney that came out and spoke on behalf of Charlotte Croom. Let me see if I can pull that video up. Now, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that uh, I'm able to share the volume. Last time I tried to do this and it didn't work, but let's hope for the best this time.
Is actively searching for his whereabouts. Here's what I've come to understand. On late January 1st, the police were called to the home of Travelle's girlfriend for a report of a domestic dispute. Travelle quickly left the residence with his girlfriend's phone, and police gave chase. Apparently, the police pinged his location using the girlfriend's phone and proceeded to that location with allegedly 8 officers, dogs, and drones. This is a wooded area outside of Reading, Pennsylvania, in Cumru Township. The police returned to the girlfriend's home where they allegedly said they lost him and his scent due to the lake. They, however, found the girlfriend's cell phone. His family explains that they went out to that wooded area subsequently after the police and found his shoe, where the police say they lost him. Travelle has been missing now for 9 days without his wallet, without his shoes, or his coats. Police have an active warrant in place and a $10,000 reward for any information leading to his arrest. $10,000 for a domestic dispute. Now, keep in mind, Travelle allegedly has absolutely no criminal past, none whatsoever. After the police left the scene, allegedly the girlfriend tried to call Travelle on his phone to tell him to return to the house to pick up his car. Allegedly, the phone was off. It has been 9 days with temperatures as low as single digits, with no coat and no shoes. He has not returned home. He has not called anyone, and his family is worried sick. If you have any information, please jump on social media, message me, or look up Travelle Martin and send messages and prayers to that family. God bless Travelle Martin and his family.
So there you have it. I guess I need to correct myself. So he did leave the home with his shoes on, but I think when there was that chase happening, that somehow he came out of his shoes. I don't know if, like, perhaps, like, the shoes, if it was snowing and his shoes got stuck in the snow. I'm deeply concerned that there is an inference that Trayvon Martin could have jumped into the river, because if the temperatures are what the Walker firm is stating, that they were single digits, and it was that cold out there, I don't know how Travelle Martin would even bring himself to jump in a lake or to get into a lake and then to remain down in it when it's that cold. I think that that would be very difficult to do for a person, under those conditions. And so I think that people are trying to make this a black and white issue. And what I mean by black and white issue is they're trying to make it a black and white issue when it comes to the relationship between Travelle Martin and the girlfriend. And from what I see, that this was a relationship with two people who I'm pretty sure were in love and really cared about each other, but just had some disagreements and were just got into a domestic dispute. Now, the burden falls on the Cumru Police Department, because they haven't initiated an investigation. They have left the mother without any answers about the regarding the whereabouts of her son, and they are creating this folk devil of out of Trayvelle Martin, which is stifling the support that the mother should be receiving in this particular situation. So I really hope that you, Charlotte, I hope that you get the support that you need right now. And oftentimes when we are trying to get support, what we really want is justice. And that's what I mean. I hope that you get justice in this situation, because again, you're a mother and you deserve to know what happened to your child, and you deserve to know the whereabouts of your child. And the fact that the police department is not working in concert with you to bring you to provide you with those answers is really a failure on their part. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think about this story? Do you think that the do you think I'm right about this? Do you think that the police department should be doing more to help Charlotte Croom? Is the question. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook. My Facebook account is not appearing in the search results for some odd reason, but I do have a Facebook account. My account is being highly suppressed, but I will put it in the description of this video. Don't forget to follow me on this YouTube channel, and we will talk to you next time. Bye bye, ladies and gentlemen.